Thank you for staying with us on AM 120. Well, this morning we are looking at political matters in Oyo State. Now, Oyo State has a new number 2 man. The Oyo State House of Assembly impeached the now former Deputy Governor, Engineer Rauf Olaniyan. This was on allegations of gross misconduct as well as some other allegations leveled against him. We want to take a look at this morning because as we speak, a new Deputy Governor has been sworn in, Chief Bayo Lawal. So that impeachment of the Deputy Governor has, got a lot of attention, and we'll be doing that, taking a part of the decision and what transpired and the likely fallout of that this morning with our first guest. We have Mr. Badejoko Adesumbo. He's a public affairs analyst. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning to you, Mr. Badejoko.
Good morning, sir. It's good to be here again.
Yes. Since independence, the gale of impeachment started in Kaduna. 23rd June, exactly 41 years and 27 days today. Balarabe Musa was impeached by the Kaduna State House of Assembly. Of course, it was apparently an issue between him and the House of Assembly. And then, that was the only impeachment in the Second Republic, where the Third Republic was an aborted one. But the Fourth Republic, there was a gale of impeachment under Obasanjo, impeachments that were quite questionable. The question is this: what really is the issue about impeachment in Nigeria?
Well, going back memory lane, if you trace the history of impeachments, they are always a product of fallout between either the substantive governor and the legislative arm, or a tussle between the state government and the federal government, or a tussle between the principal, the governor, and the deputy. Those are the pattern at which the impeachment had taken place. That of the deputy governors have been the successful ones so far. That of the governors, we've had courts invalidating the impeachment and reinstating the governors. That's the case of, I think, Plateau, Anambra, and Oyo State during the time of Governor Ladoja. But for the deputies, they've not really enjoyed that favor from the judicial arm. Their impeachment has always, stayed. So what happened in Oyo State of recent is not too different from the previous ones.
May I step in there? Why do you make that distinction between the impeachment of governors? You said they seem not have found favor with the judiciary in their own impeachment, unlike the governors whose impeachments mostly have been reversed.
Yes, because
the same laws apply to them.
The same laws and
provisions apply to them.
But when you look at the governor, as the Constitution, there's much protection for the governor in the Constitution than the deputy. He's the principal officer of the state. Most times, even the state assembly members are, more or less at the beck and call of the governor. But look at the case of those 2 governors that were impeached. It was more of an imposition from the top. Probably they were having feud with some powerful people within the state, and of course the federal weighted him.
The one they call Abuja politician.
And due process were not followed. You can imagine a situation where 7 out of 32 members will impeach a governor. That's absurd. So these are the things that actually made the court to invalidate those
procedural issues now.
Yes.
Okay.
But for deputy governors, of course, the governor calling the shot would ensure that due process is followed, especially when the assembly is cooperating with the governor. The only thing that could stop that is if the assembly is not refuse to cooperate, or they are favoring or they're supporting the deputy that is having problem with the governor. So that's, we had something similar in Ondo States, I think last year or 2 years ago. So, but that of other governors, the man in Kogi did not survive it. And so that's the case of Kogi can be similar, can be said to be similar to that of Oyo State, because build up to the election, the governor, the deputy had problem with his governor, and the only difference is that the man did not decamp to the opposition like that of Oyo State. So that's the thing.
Okay, now that you have mentioned it, thinking of it now, some people feel that that's really the apple of discord. That's what precipitated the impeachment process. You know, from your own analysis of it all, was that the main decision that's brought us to this point, or brought the former deputy governor to this point?
I would say that was the last straw, you know, that broke the camel's back for the deputy governor. I would have preferred a situation, you know, the Englishman says, once the heat, when you cannot bear the heat, you leave the kitchen, you get out of the kitchen. So that's what I expect him to have done, you know, bowing out honorably. His integrity will be intact. Impeachment is a dent on any politician, whether he believes it or not, whether our viewers also are aware of that or not. It's a dent. It's just like a governor being impeached by, you know, it puts that stigma on him.
It will always record it. So.
Yes, it will always be there if he wants to vie for any political office. There will always be opposition to his ambition in the future. He ought not to have allowed that to happen to him. And the only way he could have done that is to just tender his resignation. That will restore the honor and integrity. And of course, he can always use that as a leverage in his political ambition in the future. He was just deputy governor. He hasn't been governor. There are so many offices he could still contest for as far as the political situation in Nigeria is concerned.
But that act in itself of decamping from one political party, the political party that brought you to power, on a joint ticket with the governor, and moving to another political party, even while there, and choosing to remain in office, how do you view it?
It's very funny. I view it in a funny manner. When he made the announcement earlier in the year, I was like, what's this man doing? We are not supposed to do this. You know, there are ways, even if you agree with your governor, you can still pretend all along to serve out your tenure. It doesn't stop you from romancing the opposition. But declaring openly, saying that you have resigned from the party, you have dropped the office that very day. So holding on to it is just is something he will have to tell the people of Oyo State by himself.
Yeah, but he told us, you know, told Nigerians, told Oyo State people that his teaming supporters asked him to move. Well, and he did.
How come those supporters did not protest his impeachment? You understand what I'm saying? No, you know, when a man is trying to whip up sentiments or he had valid case, there's a difference between the two. If he's just trying to whip up sentiments, it will be a function of his popularity amongst the people. But in this case, he appears not to be as popular as the governor, and the governor is the one that wants him out. So that's why you didn't see much reaction. You understand? Let's compare it to Ondo State. Agbola Ajayi was a bit popular among the people within the assembly, and that was why the governor had some issues in the attempt. But the case is different here in Oyo State, and that's why, and he would know. There's no way a politician would not know his approval rating out there, except they want to pretend about it. So that's the situation, and that's where I blame the deputy governor. And my verdict has always been that he impeached himself.
Okay, now let's take a look and interrogate how he became deputy governor. You know, he was an ADC.
Yeah.
He wanted to be governor. He was a strong contender for the position of governor in ADC. And then the alliance. It was the alliance or the groupings that produced, you know, the coalition, yes, that's what it was called in 2019, that brought him in. He was in contention for the office of governor too. So this was a man who himself still had the ambition of being governor, accepting to be governor. If you want to be governor, is it proper to accept to be deputy governor?
There's nothing bad in that. We've seen cases of deputies succeeding.
Yes.
Yeah, principal. We've had that in Nigeria. At least we can point to Samfara and think Sokoto State example. So, but if he has that at the back of his
Ambitious deputy governors?
mind, he is not supposed to be over ambitious. He's supposed to be very strategic with it, meaning that you be the best friend of the governor. But when you allow the governor to begin to suspect you, then you have created an avenue for a very serious feud, which most deputy governors don't survive. And that's what is applicable here. And I need to point out, the ADC arrangement did not even go in his favor. Because as at then, most of the political parties were looking at presenting an Ibadan man. And Senator Lanley was given the ticket of the ADC. And that was at the point he moved into the PDP. Yes, there was now another alliance involving the ADC now, but that concerns Senator Lanley. He had already been the running mate of Governor Makinde as at the time of that alliance. So he had moved out before the alliance. The alliance met him in PDP. But because he is also coming in as a big wig then, with his experience in the civil service and the popularity in his zone, all these were combined. Of course, they were looking for someone that would add value to the ticket within the PDP from Okeogun area. These are what made him to be chosen as the running mate of the governor then, as a candidate of the PDP. Fine, they won the election. You should be aware that's come. You need to you have your expectation, fine. You can always engage the governor. Even before you're swearing in. I have issues with the way and manner they work, so I don't like their working relationship. And that's why I'm not surprised at what actually...
Doesn't that come down to capacity on the part of the two in managing relationships?
Of course, we can link that to it, because personally, when they came up, I look at the combination. I did not expect Oyo State to appoint, or the governor to appoint anybody as the commissioner for works. I expected the governor to put that responsibility in the hands of the deputy. With his experience in the works ministry, having headed the HOSTRA, the Road Maintenance Agency of the state, being a former permanent secretary, he has every credential to actually manage that ministry. That will save costs, and it will ensure that the quality is there for whatever road construction that the state wants to do. And of course, it's going to add value to the administration. But that did not happen. And I want to also believe that the deputy would have been expecting something like that. Now look at what happened. The new deputy governor, who doesn't have that much experience in that ministry, is now going to superintend over the same agency that the former deputy governor probably was expecting.
Which agency?
HOSTRA, that's the Road Maintenance Agency. It's part of the responsibility given to him now, which means that the governor probably did that deliberately, or later realized his mistake and wanted to correct it.
Or there was no love lost, or there were trust issues?
Yes, whichever way.
In the beginning.
You understand? But I see the governor too trying to correct his own mistakes that he made because they are from the same zone. Definitely they will be meeting, or their people from the zone will be meeting and be asking questions. You understand? They could be asking questions of betrayal. Why did you accept the appointment when you saw the way and manner your brother has been treated? Or accepted it so that we will not lose the slot. Things like that would have played out, or could be playing out, or may still play out as we approach the next election. Because politics is about intrigues, about permutation and combination, compromise and negotiation. Everything is involved.
But if we were to examine the working relationship, there had always been whispers that all was not right between the governor and the deputy and all that. Yeah. So if we were to examine that, was it safe to say that the deputy governor had been fully sidelined in a manner?
Yes, it's safe to say that, because it's not something that is hidden. It's obvious to everyone, even those who are not really interested in what is going on in the governance. You see that they are always moving differently. Even when they are together, you see the body language. That's what is it called now? That's
Friction?
Friction is obvious. You see, these people are not together. They are just occupying, and it's very dangerous in governance. So the best thing is what has happened now. For the governor to have someone he can, by virtue of the arrangement, the deputy is supposed to be your principal advisor. Before any decision is made, guy, what do you feel about this? It's supposed to be the final point, the major contributor to any policies of the government, any decision that the governor is going to make. That's why he's your running mate. But when that relationship is not there, that means somebody else will now be playing the role, and the implication is that the deputy becomes sidelines, especially when there's no serious constitutional role being given to that office, unlike that of the vice president.
Did you expect such a smooth sail, of these impeachment processes? Did you expect the process was going to be that smooth, considering the fact that 9 members of the Oyo State House of Assembly belonging to the PDP did not get a return ticket, and there was some, of course, some other members from the APC too. Did you expect such a smooth sail?
Look, if the governor wants to achieve his aim, the only person that could have prevented that, or the only group of people, will be the principal officers in the house. And in as much as those ones are into the heart, there's no way they will not carry their own members along, because the principal officers has much influence within the chambers of the assembly, and that is what they have used to carry the other members along. And it also shows that the deputy is not really popular amongst them. Probably they too don't like, or they've weeded him at some point secretly and didn't enjoy the response they got in return. All these things are not open to the public. They would know amongst themselves. But for it to have been so smooth, it means the man is not as popular as people would expect him to be within the government.
But that also does point us to the fact that lawmakers, and not just Oyo State, they do have the capacity to kickstart a process, follow it through, and finish it up swiftly and smoothly. Unlike what we keep on hearing when it comes to, I'm bringing it to the federal level right now, constitutional amendment. It takes so long, and it seems like, some of these things are so difficult. But that doesn't really seem to be the case when there are interests involved.
Except we want us to digress, because the issue of constitutional amendment that you
I'm talking about the swiftness now.
Yes, there are so many things that are involved. When it comes to the Constitution, it's about the people. It's the law of the land that we're talking about. So there are so many stakeholders that must be carried along. And when that is done at the federal level, do you know there's an amendment going on? About 44 bills are at the State Assembly now, awaiting their own verdict. And out of 36 State Assembly, I tell you that only 3 had actually passed those bills. The 4th one is just commencing the operation. I don't even think Oyo State Assembly has even started anything. And we are still going to 24. 24 of these 36 must pass the bills before the law becomes amended.
But even within those states, it doesn't have to take this long. That's the point.
Yeah, because a good number of them are so attached to the governor. So many of them are naive when it comes to their constitutional role as lawmakers within the state. Some are always there. They have no initiative of their own. They always expect either the governor bringing bills for them to sponsor. And when they will sponsor whatever will concern their immediate constituency. That's all what they focus on. So the one that concerns the entire nation. And I'm even surprised at this constitutional amendment, because there are provisions in there that will even grant relative autonomy to the
legislators.
So why are they not even working on it? I expect them to have, return the thing back to the National Assembly for final, what is it called now, series of voice vote, and the thing passed to the president for assembly, because we need that law if we want things to change in the next administration. We really need those amendments. But for now, the State Assembly are holding the entire country to ransom.
Has impeachment become a weapon?
Well,
it was weaponized during the era of...
It has always been a weapon. It has always been
Whip
a
into line.
Yes,
And
or get kicked out. It has always been a weapon, and of course, the only unfortunate part is that people are not learning from history. The former deputy governor of Oyo State did not learn from history. He has so many cases to learn from. And even going into such an arrangement, he ought to know that, it's just like when you are in an hostile environment, you should know how to survive that. That means it's as questionable in terms of his survival skills.
What are the skills, or what does it take to be a successful deputy governor?
Loyalty to the principal. And in politics, your loyalty must not be reduced by any fraction. I mean, once it is not 100%, that decimal it will be counted as disloyalty.
How do you now manage your loyalty and ambition?
You can still use your loyalty to foster your ambition. Within that, you first of all make your principal to earn his trust. It is that trust that you now ride on to present your ambition. Of course, you would always know that this man is ambitious. So for him to surrender this ambition, it's not every ambition that you must pursue aggressively. There are some that be strategic. For most ambition, you have to be strategic in the way you pursue it. Otherwise, you run into problems because you are not the only one hiding that. So many people have lost their life. Thank God the era of political assassination and gone. There are so many things with the way and manner people, pursue their ambition these days. You begin to wonder, is there any special thing that you get from this place other than wanting to go there to steal? If truly you are going there to serve, you are not supposed to be this aggressive about the whole thing. It shouldn't be a do or die affair. But you see that once some people couldn't achieve their aim in a particular platform, before you say Jack Robinson, they are in another platform.
Allegations against him range from specifically the issue of corruption, and there was evidence presented to the panel regarding the issue of corruption.
Well, the deputy did not give people like us any opportunity to speak in his defense. Why? Allegations are meant to be defended. He did not show up to defend himself at the panel. He didn't sell any representative. At least his lawyers would question this allegation. We'll have opportunity to cross-examine the witnesses that came to stand against him. He didn't take advantage of all these opportunities. Of course, that would have echoed in the media. People would have been more aware of what was going on. But he simply kept to himself, wanting to reap a sympathy that is not there. And in the end, that is what has happened. That's why I said I expected him to have just resigned and save himself of this unnecessary stress.
If we were to, explore that further, the accusations, gross misconduct, abuse of office, financial recklessness, abandonment of office on official duty, insubordination, and other offenses. And then you've got to ask, for instance, particularly gross misconduct right now. Are those, allegations right now, were they just fresh ones? Were they there, or they just popped up after he moved to another party?
No, the whole thing emanated from a petition dated January this year. Now, between January and July is 6 months. And I'm sure he would have been aware, except his media team are not doing their job. If he has quality heads that are loyal to him, the moment the petition shows up, he ought to have been aware. And he could have quashed it at that level. Or let the government know that, sir, this thing, Your Excellency, this allegation being raised against me, I don't know anything about it too. These are what has happened. That will not go into the public. They would have resolved at that level. But being adamant or being saying they should do their worst, you are dealing with someone that is powerful here, according to the law.
The petition you're referring to, a contractor named, I want to withhold, appeared before the panel, accused the deputy governor of not allowing him to execute his contract, alleging that he coerced him into diverting the contract sum to his private pocket. The contractor confirmed payment of part of the contract sum into the account of the deputy governor's brother as instructed by him.
Why didn't he defend that? When you refuse to defend an allegation, you are are indirectly accepting or owning up to that allegation. That's what it means. And if he was owned up indirectly, it means he deserves to be impeached. But there is an opportunity for you to go defend yourself. We've seen cases in this country, is it not Nigeria? So many criminals have gotten away without being punished. But we are talking about a deputy governor.
So why would he choose that path?
That is best known to him. He will be in the best position to answer that question. Well, I'm just saying my expectation wasn't met on his own part. I expect him to have just, take the fight to the governor or to the assembly. There are lawyers there that would have been ready to defend him. I'm sure even the procedures, the lawyers can question it. Now, going back to courts, I don't see him bringing anything back from the courts.
Right.
Because there is no precedence to that extent.
Precedence?
Yes, there are. Which deputy governor was reinstated? Even the latest one, Zamfara. He's just there, he's still in court. The case has not been, he has been impeached. He stands impeached. By the assembly, it is when the court reinstates him that we can be saying that it's a precedence. They will always go to court and not get back because the governor would follow them to court with their team of lawyers with all manner of resources to ensure that the embarrassment is prevented on their own part. These are things that he will have to contend with because it will be a slap on the governor's face if he now loses out and is now going to be forced to work with him again. So he will do everything. He will go all out to fight and prevent that from happening. That's why I said there's no precedence to that effect. So I don't see him coming. It will even be a waste of the resources he ought to keep and enjoy with his family.
Well, interestingly, his lawyer, SAN, Afolabi Fashanu, came out and was telling everybody that the panel raised to investigate those allegations raised against, Rauf Olaniyan was paid to do what they did. It was interesting when I saw that because I want to quote, what he said there. He says, this is against established law. He talked about the proceedings and the fact that they went to court. There were so many other things in the statement. That on the part of the panel, they were appointed and paid to do a board job, which must be contrary to good conscience. He went all out even to call out, some members of the panel there.
Issuing such a statement to someone like me, I don't know. I will say I'm disappointed in him, being a senior advocate, now raising an allegation. I'm not supposed to be addressing the press on that. Prepare your case file. Go back to court with those evidence if you have them. To prove that, yes, these people are bought. Probably you look at their statement of account, tracing the money back to the governor and guarding all these things as evidence. But it will now be allegation against individual members of both the panel and the assembly members. Not the governor directly now. You understand what I'm saying? So, which would make the whole thing to be too complex because it will now take a lot of time. And by the time they will be ending, the governor, the deputy, even if he has not been impeached, has less than a year to stay in that office. So it's just a waste of time. Where was that man when the panel was sitting? Why did they not go defend his client at the panel?
Further that statement, he said they served the deputy governor on Friday around 10:45. Now I'm quoting him now, and asked him to appear at 11 a.m. We wrote to inform them that His Excellency needed time to prepare for his defense. In their desperation to do the job for which they were paid, they rejected the letter, sat on Saturday, and completed their task the same day.
Look, he is not a foreigner. He is a Nigerian. He should be aware of things like that. We've seen cases where assemblies were inaugurated by the governor at night. We've seen cases where on a public holiday, court judgments were gotten. In this country, we've seen a case where 6 people will pass a law. We've seen a case where 38 senators passed a bill in Nigeria. So why is he pretending to be? This is not the United Kingdom or United States of America. He ought to have prepared himself to go all out. If you're saying that duration is too, it's a matter of phone call, but it's not that big. You can still make yourself available just to embarrass them and to prove that you are doing the wrong thing. Well, they've asked their way. The boy all is in his own court now to do the needful, which will be going to the law court.
Well, you may not be a lawyer, but we would need your opinion on this. Section 188, subsection 10, it's an ouster clause that totally precludes, the court from taking a look at impeachment. What's your take on that? But we have had courts reverse impeachment.
They will
ouster clause, then we now have courts reversing impeachment.
Yes, you said it. I'm not a lawyer. I wouldn't bother myself with going into the technicalities of all of that. That's their job. But the thing is, if we had not had any trial incidents or any past case that is similar to what we are looking at, I don't see it playing out here as well. I said it earlier that it is only the governors that have enjoyed that, and they were able to enjoy because of the way and manner. If those people had followed the due process, those governors would have also stand impeached. But they were just too questionable, and of course people would, and the popularity of the personalities involved too, on ground, also helped, because there's one thing that most people don't know. As the case is going, as the trial is going on, the judge or the panel presiding will be feeling the pulse of the society. When they know that this is not going to be a popular judgment, you see them reserving it or throwing out the case. No, I'm not going to allow you to embarrass me. Go and sort yourself out somewhere else. But people will know that is what the judge has done. For instance, the case that the deputy had filed at the Federal High Court was thrown out. What do you think is the reason behind it? Is it that the man does not have any case to even present? Or the man felt that this thing will land him in trouble. Let me just throw this thing out and let them go and sort themselves out in another way.
Beyond the letters of the law.
It's still within the... When you bring a case to court, there are only two possibilities. You either get justice or you are denied. There's no third option. So that was the case with the deputy governor. He was denied the judgments that he so expected. It's a prayer. It's either your prayer is answered or
Well, that prayer wasn't answered. But then we have to say a very big thank you to you for talking to us this morning, Mr. Adesumbo Badijuko. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Okay, let's take a break. We have another guest coming up.